What's going on, people? I'm Jared. Thanks for being here. It's good to see you. You know, I've been a lens snob most of my career. I've always wanted to get those L lenses, or the Nikon S lenses, or for OM system, the pro lenses, right? The most expensive stuff. And now with Nikon, I basically kept my Nikon ZF because I wanted a full frame camera that could adapt older lenses. And so when TTArtisan reached out and asked me if I wanted to use it, I was like, nah, I don't want that because I already have a bunch of other stuff I can use. But then I realized that this is almost the perfect lens for the Nikon ZF. Because the Nikon ZF has manual controls, right? It's got the shutter, it's got the ISO dial, and now we have the TTArtisan lens with the aperture dial. So the experience is fantastic going out. And I realized that we can get great results basically with any modern lens that we can buy and go out and have a lot of fun, all right? And this is a prime example. So I went out to Omaha, Nebraska, downtown Omaha, Nebraska, took a little photo walk that I want to take you behind the scenes on and talk a little bit about the photos and how to get great results no matter what lens you have. But you know what? This lens was a lot of fun to use. And so finding a lens that kind of connects with you is also part of the deal. So find that lens, cheap, whatever, and let's go out and take some pictures. First tip is really just to look at the light. So that's why a lot of people say to go out in the morning, go out in the evening, where you get that directional sunlight. And then I'm just looking at contrast. I'm looking at the light versus the dark and where those things intertwine, right, where they interact. And so on this day, the light was really cool. You get the warm color on the concrete and you get some of that directional light. And then that guy's walking between two of those columns, orange shirt, so he stands out just a bit. And a nice color combination with the yellow and the blue. Not the best photo ever, right? But something kind of decent. Just going out and enjoying myself, enjoying the weather. And you can see this series of photos just embraces the contrast, and that's all it is. I'm looking at the light, and I'm also slightly underexposing just to kind of bring out some of those highlights a little, make sure I have details throughout, and get those shadows pretty dark. You know, the TTArtisan 40mm f2 is not the fastest focuser, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to get any kind of action or rely on quick autofocus, which is of course great downtown because you're not worrying about that too much. And for this series of photos, I just kind of said I'm going to do a little bit of a personal project, looking at the sun and how it interacts with some of the scenes, either highlights or shining off a window or just using the sun stars. And remember, this shooting sun stars is pretty easy. I'm just using a pretty small aperture to get that sun star to appear, so 5.6, it's kind of squeezed in there. And then for a lot of the bigger ones, I'm going with like f16 and stuff like that. And you can see that they do a pretty good job. I also had a good time just looking at the light and how it interacted with some of the lines and some of the signs. Just kind of created some simple compositions with that. Next up, I'm just paying attention to details. Some of these things I've really never looked at before or paid attention to when I'm on a walk in my own backyard, right? This is my city, this is my downtown, and I haven't really paid attention to a lot. Photography is an excuse to get out and pay attention to the things. Here's an example of the 40mm f2 from TTArtisan and how it produces some pretty decent background blur. It's nice and pleasing. The minimum focus distance isn't great. This is as close as I could focus. The autofocus, again, is not very fast, but it's a joy to use on manual focus, especially with a camera like the ZF with all manual controls. You guys know I'm a nature and landscape photographer, so I can't help but look at some of the leaves and the way the light hits them. It's beautiful. And then I was walking around a little bit more and just decided to do a little mini project showing downtown with the nature and kind of placing those two together. And that was a lot of fun to do that too. So when you're out, just make those little mini projects while you're walking around. So real quick, talking a little bit more about the lens, it's under $170. So you should have permission to go and get any cheap lens you want, right? And I think a lot of them are going to produce similar results. This one in particular, I think is really good. The aperture ring is a lot of fun to use on the ZF especially. The minimum focus distance I wish was a little bit closer, and I also wish the autofocus was faster. So if you have a lot of kids running around, the native Z option is way faster to autofocus from, especially close to far, those kinds of transitions. The autofocus was accurate, it was fine, but I actually used it more in manual mode than anything else. So again, permission is given to you to go out and use a cheap lens. I hope that you choose to do that sometimes, instead of always spending all that money like I usually do. But this is gonna be basically tied to my ZF for a while. I'm gonna sell the native Z lens, even though it's weather sealed and stuff like that. I'm not gonna take this out in bad weather. This is gonna be my walk around fun lens, and that's cool. So until next time, if you have any questions, throw them below. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Like and subscribe and all that stuff.